fantasy football season approaching in the next couple weeks, and drafts even starting this weekend for some fantasy owners. Here's the top 50 players overall I'm ranking going into the season. So if you haven't seen my other rankings, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, even kicker, defense, they're all up there on the channel. One player, Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. So Christian McCaffrey, you know what you're going to get from Christian McCaffrey. Top running back the last couple seasons. The only thing that's held him back in the past was injuries. Going back to his Carolina Panther days, I know in training camp he's banged up with a calf injury, but PPR leagues, half point or no PPR leagues, I think it's an easy pick this season, Christian McCaffrey. Number 2, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. I've said this in the wide receiver video. People prefer CeeDee Lamb over Tyreek Hill, but I believe Tyreek Hill's got a better track record than CeeDee Lamb throughout his career. He's in more of an explosive offense where they could just get that ball on a little screen and Tyreek Hill could take his last. Where CeeDee Lamb, I know he's a game breaker and playmaker as well, but I just believe Tyreek Hill is a little better wide receiver, and his ball games have a higher ceiling as well than CeeDee Lamb. And I don't see CeeDee Lamb matching what he did last season. 135 catches and only over 1,700 yards and double-digit touchdowns, where Tyreek Hill's been doing things like this his whole career. Number 3, CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. Another thing with CeeDee Lamb, he's been holding out all training camp. It might take him a little bit to get things going in the early part of the season, and that's another reason I got CeeDee Lamb at number 3. But to be honest, you can't go wrong with either wide receiver, but I prefer Tyreek Hill at the 2 spot, and number 3, CeeDee Lamb. Number 4, Breece Hall of the New York Jets. What a season it was for Breece Hall last season with no real quarterback, with Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle behind center for this New York Jet team last year. And Breece Hall still had over 70 catches, still ran a whole lot, put up some big ball games, and was right up there amongst the league leaders at the running back position. And this season with Aaron Rodgers back and an offense of line that improved in the offseason, I'm giving Hall a slight edge over Bijan Robinson in the rankings. And if you want to go Bijan Robinson, it's perfectly fine as well. It's only Bijan's second season in the NFL, and I know Hall's only been in the league a couple years as well as of now, but I think Bijan Robinson, he's got potential we haven't seen yet, obviously. And now in a better offense with a better quarterback in Kirk Cousins, you can make the argument for both players. But if you can land one of these players, obviously, in these 4th or 5th overall picks, I think it's a slam dunk either way for fantasy owners. Number 6, Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. So many people have Brown in that 7-8 spot, but I like St. Brown a lot this season. He's been consistent over the last couple years. I know his ceiling isn't as high as a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase at times, but consistency and his floor, I think, is better than Jamar Chase definitely is. Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Justin Jefferson, he's down a little bit for me as well because of his quarterback. I know J.J. McCarthy and Darnold were battling it out in the preseason, but McCarthy went down season-ending injury. But like I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown in a great situation. He's a PPR machine, no doubt about it. And his floor is going to be better than a Jamar Chase. Number 7, Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. So overall, I said this in the wide receiver video, I think Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the league. But obviously, this is fantasy football, and these other players have higher upsides with their quarterback playing in the offenses they're in. But I would be happy as well. 7th, 8th pick, and Justin Jefferson's there on the board. That's a big pick, I believe, for fantasy owners. People are sleeping on Jefferson a little bit. I know last season he missed some ball games with the injury, but he came back with backup quarterbacks and still put in work with Joshua Dobbs at the quarterback position, and even Nick Mullins, who was out of the league for a little bit and returned. So I know it's going to be Sam Darnold this season, but Justin Jefferson, he's that type of receiver where he'll produce no matter what. Just the ceiling won't be as high as some of these other wide receivers. Number 8, Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. So just like CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, another guy, if he's holding out, he wants a big contract. Supposedly $40 million a year Jamar Chase wants. But Jamar Chase, we know he's a good receiver. Him and Joe Burrow, obviously college teammates as well, and they've taken the league by storm over the last few seasons. And Chase's numbers went down a little bit, obviously, last year where Burrow was out half the season. But like I said, all these receivers, they're close in the rankings. But I just prefer Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jefferson over Chase, where I know Chase in most leagues is going 5th, 6th overall. Number 9, A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. So A.J. Brown's been a receiver, consistency, and one of the best receivers over the last few seasons since he got traded to Philadelphia. And getting a big contract in the offseason. He's a playmaker, physical wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. And A.J. Brown, once again, he's going to go out there and put up big numbers. And I don't think many people could stop him. Over 1,400 yards last season, over 80 receptions. And right now in that number 9 spot, it's a good spot for Brown. Number 10, Puka Nacua of the Los Angeles Rams. I know he's banged up. Training camp is Puka Nacua, but he's been out 2 weeks now in training camp and still has another few weeks to heal before the regular season starts. So Puka Nacua took the league by storm last season, where he was a 5th-round pick that no one thought he would do much. And he came in week 1, put up those big numbers and breaking a lot of records as Puka Nacua. And once again, in the Sean McVay offense and a high-powered offense, he's going to get a lot of looks. He's going to make a lot of plays. And I know some people have him at 12th, 13th overall, but I like Nacua a lot this season. Number 11, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's banged up as well in training camp with a knee injury. And going into the preseason, I was a little bit higher on Gibbs, but I moved him back a couple spots overall. But I still believe Jahmyr Gibbs, he's a talented running back entering his 2nd season, already one of the better receiving backs in all pro football. And even David Montgomery over there in the backfield. Gibbs, he just needs 12 to 18 touches per game to put up fantasy points, and we saw it last season in his rookie year. So on the fast track over there in Detroit, and a high-powered offense with many weapons that could get you on different sides of the field, I like Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back, especially in a running back position that really drops off after this mid-second round. I like him in the back end of round 1. In the 12th, Saquon Barkley of the Philadelphia Eagles. I know people probably have Garrett Wilson a few spots up, but Saquon Barkley, I think this could be one of his best years of his career. We know his best year was his rookie season, where he came in and we thought he was the next big-time running back amongst the league leaders every season, but injuries have played a factor big time for Saquon Barkley. But now he joins this Philadelphia Eagle team, where it's the best offense easily he's played with in his NFL career. So I think Saquon, if he's healthy, it's sky's the limit for him. And some people have him in that early part of the second, mid-second, but at the back end of the first round, like I said, where running back really drops off, early third round range. I think Barkley, if you could secure him at that 12th pick, it's fine. Number 13, Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets. He's a talented wide receiver, no doubt about it, is Garrett Wilson. And now to have, obviously, Aaron Rodgers in the lineup and ready to go, his numbers just off the bat go up immediately. Where last season he still have over 1,000 yards with Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle at quarterback and over 90 receptions. So Garrett Wilson, he's in that 9th, 10th overall range, but I believe I'd rather have some of these running backs over him. And we don't know. Aaron Rodgers, he's 40 years old, go down with injury once again. And Wilson's obviously value drops. Number 14, Kyren Williams to the Los Angeles Rams. What a season it was for Kyren Williams last season. He took the league by storm, him and his teammate Puka Nacua. Last year, he missed Kyren Williams 4 games, and he still was a top 10 running back in fantasy football. And Sean McVay, he knows how to get the best out of these speed players and how to run the offense. And like I said, Kyren Williams could do it all. He's a 3-down back. Catch the football out of the backfield, small back, but still running between the tackles and get the job done. And I believe his upside is higher than a Jonathan Taylor, and that's why I got him over Taylor. I know Taylor's in the top 10, top 12 for most fantasy websites and in fantasy people's mind, but I believe Kyren Williams' ceiling is higher. And Jonathan Taylor, I think he might start to decline a little bit. Number 15, Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. So Jonathan Taylor, like I said, he's still going to get a big workload. He signed a nice contract last season where he was holding out the first few weeks of the year, but he really didn't get his footing under him, and he also wasn't really 100% as well. I know he had a couple pop games here and there, Jonathan Taylor, but the last couple seasons his numbers have dropped off, and injuries have been a factor for Taylor. I'm not saying injuries isn't a factor for any other player, but I just believe Jonathan Taylor, they're ranking him a little bit high, but to get him in the early second round, I think is good value. 16, Marvin Harrison Jr. of the Arizona Cardinals. So Marvin Harrison, I think it's sky's the limit. He's one of the more highly ranked wide receivers as a rookie that I can remember going into a fantasy football season, but he's in a great situation with the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, who we know is a gunslinger, takes a lot of chances, and he's going to try to force that football down the field. And now it's a good offense. Marvin, Trey McBride, Connor, Kyler Murray, and Marvin Harrison's been one of the big prospects to come out in the last decade at the wide receiver position. So I believe in the hype with Marvin Harrison, and I would take him in this mid-second round. Number 17, Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. So Derrick Henry, he's up there in the rankings for other websites, but I think Henry's numbers are going to drop off a little bit. And as well at the goal line, Lamar Jackson's still going to get some goal line stampers and quarterback sneaks. And Derrick Henry was never much of a receiver out of the backfield, but I still believe Henry will get 1,000 yards, most likely double-digit touchdowns once again. But I believe there's going to be inconsistent ball games at time and games where Lamar is going to want to run it a lot. But Derrick Henry in that mid-second round, I still believe, is decent value. Number 18, Von Achane of the Miami Dolphins. I might be higher on Achane than some other people on other websites, but I think Achane, his ceiling is unlimited as well. Last season, he rushed 8 yards per carry. We saw him have a 50-point-plus game last season. And this Dolphin offense, he fits like a glove with the Mike McDaniel scheme and all the speed on the offense, where him and Raheem Mostert, they changed the pace back there. Teams, they're not really going to load the box when you got great receivers like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, who's been solid, except last year dropped off. So I believe Devon Achane, he's my number 9 running back and 18th overall player, is great value. Number 19, Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. I might be higher on Olave than other people are, but I think Olave is a solid receiver. This Saint team doesn't really have much on offense. I know Alvin Kamara, but his best days, I believe, are behind him. And Derek Carr, we know he's a quarterback that he just keeps trying to get that football down the field. And like I said, with not a lot of competition for targets, Rashid Shaheed, the number 2 wide receiver, I think Olave just on targets and force-fed the football will put up good numbers. 20, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. Drake London, I think this will be his best season to date with Kirk Cousins behind center for this Atlanta Falcon team. And we know Drake London's a great receiver and one of the better prospects to come out as well over the last few seasons. But when he had bad quarterback play the last few years, Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke, Desmond Ridder, it's tough for Drake London to go out there and put numbers. But this season with Cousins at quarterback, it's just going to give a big boost to Drake London's numbers. And I have him as the number 11 receiver overall. And I think in that 20 spot at the back end of the second round for fantasy drafts, it's good value. 21, Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So like I said, the running back position, after this second, early third round range, it really drops off. And Travis Etienne last season, many people thought he wasn't going to be the full-time workhorse he was. Tank Bigsby, people thought was going to get the workload, but he didn't. And Travis Etienne, he came in, he put up some numbers. I know some inconsistent ball games, but I believe once again this season with the running back position not that strong, Travis Etienne could come in and have a top 10 year at the position. 22, Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. Brought no one in at the running back position. Jerry McKinnon left. He's going to get workload. He's on one of the better offenses in the league that's improved. Bringing in Hollywood Brown, drafting Xavier Worthy. And Isaiah Pacheco, like I said, in this back end second round, early third is good value. And after Isaiah Pacheco, the running back position definitely drops off in terms of ADP and overall picking. If it was just straight up running backs you were looking for, it's a different story. But after Pacheco, I don't go running back for a while in these rankings. 23, Cooper Kupp, Los Angeles Rams. I might be higher on Cooper Kupp than other people, but remember last season Cooper Kupp came in with the leg injury was Cooper Kupp, and he just never got his footing under him after missing the first few games of the season. But this year he's been healthy all off-season, all training camp and preseason. I think Cooper Kupp's going to come back with a bigger season, and we know he's still got some of the best hands, one of the better route runners in the league, and he'll bounce back as long as he's healthy. 24, Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans, only receiver with 10 years in a row to start his career with 1,000 yards. Him and Baker Mayfield have great rapport. He got a nice contract extension in the offseason. And Mike Evans, he's just going to be that receiver as your number 2 receiver is a perfect or even a low-end 1 option that you know is going to have some pop games. 25, Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. Nico Collins, he had a breakout season last season for this Houston Texan team. He put up some big numbers, and this offense is going to be rolling once again, adding Stephon Diggs to the receiving room. Less coverage, I believe, on Nico Collins, because Stephon Diggs, I know his numbers second half went down, but I still believe Diggs is going to be a wide receiver that's going to put up numbers and take attention off Collins, where he's going to have those games. 6, Davante Adams of the Vegas Raiders. Davante Adams, his numbers have dropped off over the last couple seasons, but with Gardner Minshew at quarterback for this Vegas Raider team, I think Adams could keep the numbers up. He still had over 1,100 yards, believe it or not, last season. And this Raider team, they're going to force feed him with the football. He don't have much competition as well at the receiver position. I know they brought Brock Bowers in He's still a rookie. We'll see what he could do. Gardner Minshew, he likes targeting his number one wideout. We saw last season with Michael Pittman. And I think in that late second, if you want to go with Adams, but especially third round is where the value is with him. For me, 27, Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. So Deebo Samuel, he would be higher on my list, but it looks like Brandon Ayuk most likely is going to come back. He signed with the San Francisco 49er team, even though all last season, off season, there's been trade rumors with the Steelers, Commanders, Patriots, Browns, but nothing's coming. The season's only 2 weeks away, so right now, I believe Deebo Samuel, he's still going to put up his numbers. I know he's had some injury-prone seasons, but he's a gadget guy, and he does it all for this Niner team, even with all those mouths to feed. 28, Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. So Jalen Waddle, I believe he's going to have a bounce-back season, even though last year he still had over 1,000 yards, still over 70 catches, and he's in a high-powered offense where there's going to be weeks. Obviously, Tyreek Hill will have a monster ball game where he scores 35, 40 points, and then there's weeks Jalen Waddle will get his 25 to 30. So it's not going to be consistent every week, but Waddle's got that game-breaking ability. He got a nice contract in the offseason, and he's still only 25 years old. 29, DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. So DJ Moore, great first season for him last year in Chicago, but I believe his numbers are going to drop off with Caleb Williams, the quarterback. He's got to build a rapport with him. Keenan Allen coming in. They drafted Rome Odunze as well in the NFL draft. Got DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert in the backfield. So a lot of weapons for the Chicago Bear team. DJ Moore, over 1,300 yards last year. No doubt about it, a monster season it was for him. But this year, I think the numbers drop off a little bit, but still in that third-round range, I would take a shot on DJ Moore. 30, Malik Neighbors and the New York Giants. I might be higher on Malik Neighbors than other websites and fantasy owners, but I believe it's sky's the limit for Malik Neighbors. And just like I mentioned early in the video about Davante Adams, I think he's going to get force-fed targets, is Malik Neighbors. There's pretty much no one else in that receiving room or at the tight end position that's going to get out target or even take targets away and get more separation on defenders than Malik Neighbors. So Malik Neighbors, he's going to get peppered with targets. I know Daniel Jones, he hasn't looked good at all over the last season and a half and in the preseason. But even in that preseason game where Jones was horrible, he still had 4 catches, 55 yards, and only limited snaps was Malik Neighbors. So Neighbors, if he was in another situation, he would be even higher in my rankings. 31, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. So Josh Allen, first quarterback on the list at number 31. And I said if Allen, you could get him in that late third round, early fourth, I would take a shot at him. But him and Jalen Hurts, I think could be the exception in the third round for fantasy owners. Josh Allen, we know, has a big arm. You know, he's going to run the football a whole lot. I know his weapons are down a little bit this year. Gabe Davis leaving in free agency, Diggs traded to the Houston Texans. But Josh Allen, with his rushing ability and the total touchdowns he puts up all season, I think he's going to throw a decent amount of picks. But I think 31, if you want to start taking quarterback in the third round, him and Hurts, who I have at 32, are the exceptions. Jalen Hurts last season, people thought it was a bad year for him. Still, 38 touchdowns total. I don't know if the tush push is going to be a big thing for Hurts this season with Jason Kelce retiring. But Jalen Hurts, he's got weapons all over the place on this offense. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. And the top 10 running back in Saquon Barkley to the backfield. So Jalen Hurts, I think his job is going to be a little bit easier. And last season as well, I don't think he was 100%. So coming into the year, he's motivated more. He's healthy, and I like him. Third, fourth round range, 33, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Kelce's a little higher on the list, but Travis Kelce, I believe this will be the last big season we see out of him. Last year, injuries slowed him down a little bit, but he still had a monster year considering the tight end position and what other tight ends do in pro football. So Travis Kelce, mid-third round, I think is decent value to get the first tight end off the board. Like I said, he's going early second, mid-second round in some fantasy drafts, and I think that's a little bit too high for Travis Kelce. But like I said, he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. Their rapport is off the charts and possibly the best 1-2 combo in the league here. And once again, I think Kelce has one more monster season. 34, Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. So Sam Laporta, he's coming off a monster rookie season, breaking a lot of rookie records at the tight end position. So Laporta last year, he was one of the better finds in all fantasy football, where he was undrafted in the majority of the leagues, or if he was drafted in the back end of fantasy draft. So this season, I think Laporta goes into the year, once again, has a nice season. He can run the routes. He's a big target in the middle of the field. And that he fits the passing scheme of Jared Goff and what he wants to do. 35, Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. So right now, he's a San Francisco 49er, is Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, that could change. No extensions been signed. And no trades obviously been agreed on. But Brandon Ayuk last season, he had a monster year, going over 1,200 yards for the San Francisco 49er team. Even with all the weapons in this offense, if he stays with San Francisco, I believe he could put up numbers and pay dividends for fantasy owners as a solid number 2 receiver on the team. 36, Stephon Diggs of the Houston Texans. I think I'm higher on Stephon Diggs than other people are. I know the Texans got Tank Dell. We know Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, great quarterback. Joe Mixon in the backfield now. But Stephon Diggs, he's still a pro receiver that could go out there and have some monster games at times. And he's been a first, second rounder last couple seasons in fantasy football. So I don't think the drop-off is going to be that much for Stephon Diggs. I know he disappeared a lot last season, but now to get him in that third, fourth round range is good value. Number 37, DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. If he's a solid receiver, no doubt about it. But this receiver position is so deep this season that DK Metcalf is my number 22 receiver going into the season. And on this list, he's my number 37 player overall. So DK Metcalf, he's a big-time wide receiver, physical specimen, can run the route tree, and he's got breakaway speed, no doubt about it. But like I said, his quarterback is the issue what's holding DK Metcalf back. I know Geno Smith had a good year a couple seasons ago, but Metcalf right now, he's a little bit down in my rankings, maybe to other websites or in other people's mind. But still, Metcalf in that mid-third, early fourth round, I think is a decent pick. 38, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes last season, it was a down year in terms of fantasy numbers and stats for Mahomes. But now with new weapons, Hollywood Brown, even though he's going to miss some time, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce 100% going into the season, and Pacheco, a nice workhorse running back. I think Mahomes could get back to those elite numbers. And coming into the preseason, I had Lamar ahead of him, but I just believe as training camp's going on, Patrick Mahomes is going to have a better season than Lamar Jackson. But honestly, you can't go wrong with any of these players. 39, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. So Lamar, you know he's going to get his rushing yards this season. You know he's going to have some nuclear ball games where he scores 40, 45 fantasy points, where he's just doing everything as Lamar Jackson. And he's got great weapons, and adding Derrick Henry to the backfield could take some pressure off him as well, where teams really have to shuffle around their defense and try to figure out who they're going to try to stop. So Lamar's got all the weapons in the offense. He's going to run the football. Just staying healthy has been an issue for him over the last few seasons, where he's good to miss 2-3 games minimum per year. But like I said, with his game-breaking ability and someone we haven't seen in the quarterback position besides maybe Michael Vick in the last 20-25 years, Lamar Jackson, once again, he's in that mid-third, early fourth round range. 40, his teammate Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. I believe Mark Andrews, he definitely could be up there for the number 1 tight end position this season. I know last year he got hurt in the middle of the year was Mark Andrews, but he was on pace with Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce for that number 1 spot. And Lamar Jackson, it's his favorite target. This offseason, they brought no one in the passing game, so it's Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and Bateman is the top 3 weapons in the passing game. I know they brought in Henry, and him and Lamar, they're going to run the football a whole lot, but Mark Andrews, one of the better tight ends in all fantasy football and in the NFL, in my opinion. And I believe he goes out there once again this season and has a great year. 41, Trey McBride, the Arizona Cardinals. So these are my top 4 tight ends, and that's the cutoff in the top 50 at the tight end position. Trey McBride, second half, he came out of nowhere. Him and Kyler Murray really built a rapport. And once Zach Ertz went down, it was time for Arizona to play the young guys, and that's exactly what they did. So Trey McBride, I'd be comfortable taking him in that 4th round, where you could get an elite tight end at that range, and then you can work your receiver position once again, or even wait on a quarterback, because Trey McBride, he's one of the top tight ends to come out in college football over the last decade, winning a lot of awards, and we saw it translate already last season in his 2nd year. 42, Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans. So now the running back rush happens a little bit, but like I said, the running back drop-off was big after Isaiah Pacheco, dropping off a round and a half before I ranked the next running back here, Joe Mixon. So Joe Mixon joining Houston. I know he's got a lot of miles, wear and tear on his body, but for the most part, he's been a durable running back. And this season, to go to an offense that possibly could be even better, where he's been with Cincinnati over the last few seasons. We know Joe Mixon's a solid running back, a good receiving back out of the backfield as well, caught over 50 passes last season. And if I could get Joe Mixon in this 4th round range as my number 2 running back, I would be pretty happy, and that's where I got him ranked. Mixon, his ceiling isn't going to be a super high ceiling, but also his floor isn't going to be that bad as well. So I think, like I said, that back end 3rd, 4th round range is good range. Cook of the Buffalo Bills. So James Cook last season broke out, had a big last 5-6 games of the year for this Buffalo Bill team. Catch the football out of the backfield. But the only thing with James Cook, goal line touches might be taken away from James Cook with the big physical back rookie Ray Davis coming in from the NFL draft. So right now, James Cook, like I said, he's going to catch a lot of balls, I believe, because that wide receiver position is a question mark. Curtis Samuel going into the year is the number 1, but he's banged up. Keon Coleman's a rookie, and Khalil Shakir isn't the top of the line wide receiver. He's more of a slot in the number 3. So I think James Cook, just on workload and volume, could have a nice season. 44, Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. I might be low on Josh Jacobs than other fantasy websites and other people who play fantasy football. But I believe Josh Jacobs, last season, it could be more to come what we saw from him. Well, last year, he didn't get much going. I know the season before he had a monster year for the Vegas Raiders, but he had a lot of carries under his belt in that season as Josh Jacobs, and it might have definitely wear on Josh Jacobs. And now he joins Green Bay with their pass-first offense. They just paid the quarterback a boatload of money, and Jacobs, he's not a great receiver out of the backfield as well. I'm not saying Jacobs is going to be a bust or anything like that, but I just believe these other players have more upside than Jacobs. And like I said, if he puts in another season like he did last year, I think this ranking is justified at 44, 45, Michael Pittman of the Indianapolis Colts. So Michael Pittman, he had a great season last year with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, but this season I believe his numbers might drop off just a little bit. Here's Michael Pittman, even though he's the number 1 wide receiver going into the season for this Indianapolis Colts team. But Richardson at quarterback, he's going to look to run the football a whole lot. Jonathan Taylor going to get the football 20, 25 times per game. So Pittman, his targets might go down a little bit, but he don't have much competition to steal targets from him at that wide receiver position. It's only a bunch of young guys. Josh Downs, who's banged up, we don't know if he'll be ready for the opener. Mitchell, they drafted in the NFL draft. He's still got to get his reps in. And Alec Pierce, who really hasn't done much over the last couple seasons. I think Michael Pittman, as your number 2 wide receiver or even flex option, is safe going into the year. 46, Devonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Devonta Smith, I think he's going to be a solid wide receiver. Last year, I believe he was going too high in fantasy drafts, was Devonta Smith. But this season, I believe 1,000 yards once again for Philadelphia. But Devonta Smith, he's that all-or-nothing type of receiver at times. But there's ball games we've seen him put up 30-plus fantasy points. And then there's games where he just goes out there and he doesn't do much, 2 catches, 35 yards, and it's only a 5-point fantasy game. And with all these weapons in this offense in Philadelphia, Smith's going to have some monster games, like I said, and some down games, but still is a number 2 wide receiver flex option for fantasy owners. You can't go wrong. 47, T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. So T. Higgins, he's been moving up my ranking board over the last few weeks here. He's healthy coming into training camp. This Bengal team, they want to get back on track after last season injuries and poor play did them in. And T. Higgins, he's on a 1-year franchise tag where he wants to break out and lock up that big 5-6 year contract, making $35-40 million a year with T. Higgins, either with Cincinnati or obviously another team. So I think T. Higgins in a contract season, healthy, and if he didn't get hurt last season, he would have been a top 20 wide receiver in fantasy football. So this season, I think it's a bounce back. 48, George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I might be higher on George Pickens than I am on some other players, but Pickens last season pretty much with no quarterback, Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, 2 guys, that are backup quarterbacks at best. He still put up 1,100 yards as George Pickens. He's one of the more athletic wide receivers in all pro football, and he can make any catch if it's in the vicinity near him. So I think George Pickens this season could take the league by storm, and it wouldn't be surprising me if he could finish in that top 12, 15 wide receiver range this year. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but his potential, and if just Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever's the starting quarterback for Pickens, make it easier for Pickens to make some plays and yards after catch entering the season. I think it could be sky's the limit this year. 49 Tank Dell of the Houston Texans. So Tank Dell, I was a little bit high on him a few weeks ago, but now after preseason games, and obviously Stephon Diggs there, his value just dropped off a little bit going into fantasy drafts, but I still believe Tank Dell's going to have a nice season. But to me, he's more of a back-end number 2 wide receiver flex option for fantasy owners. But like I said, Tank Dell took the league by storm early in the year before he went out for the season with injury. So right now, Tank Dell is still a solid number, 49 overall, but we'll see how it shakes out as the regular season starts. But I got Collins, obviously, and Stephon Diggs just ahead of Tank Dell. The way the rotation's been going, and like I said, Diggs is making all this money, even though I know he's on a 1-year deal and a free agent, he's going into a contract season. Diggs, he's going to wake up and get things going in the 50th and final player I'm ranking heading into the season. CJ Stroud, his teammate of the Houston Texans. So CJ Stroud, what a rookie season it was for him last year. I think I'm higher on Stroud than other people are, where he's my number 5 quarterback overall entering the season. Like I said, all those weapons on offense, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz at the tight end position, and to have Joe Mixon out of the backfield. So I know Stroud's down on people's list as that 7th or 8th quarterback because he don't run the football a whole lot. But I think Stroud's going to put up 25, 30 touchdown range easily this season, maybe more. His yards are definitely going to be up there, and he's not going to turn the football a whole lot. And this is going to be one of the more high-powered offenses in all pro football. So I like CJ Stroud this season as my number 5 quarterback and my 50th ranked overall player. So that's the top 50 players I'm ranking entering the 2024 fantasy football season.